Hey guys, in this video we are going to go through the Unit 1 study guide together. Unit 1 was scatter plots and linear regression. And in order to answer the first learning target questions, I can evaluate the reasonableness of a mathematical model of a practical situation. We need to remember a few things about scatter plots. So when we talk about relationship of a scatter plot, which you can see right here, there are three possible relationships. You can have a positive relationship, you can have a negative relationship, or you can have no relationship. And when we talk about relationship, we're talking about the two axes of the graphs. Whatever the item is on the x-axis and the item on the y-axis, do they have a positive, negative, or no relationship? So here's the easy way. First of all, if you're looking at the graph, it's a positive relationship if the dots go up to the right. It's a negative relationship if the dots go down to the right. It's no relationship if your dots are just sort of random and they don't make any kind of a line, okay? That is easy to look at when you're talking about the graph, but what about when you're talking about words? Well, when you're talking about your words and you're trying to decide, in order for there to be a positive relationship, the x-axis item goes up and the y-axis item also goes up. If there's a negative relationship, the x-axis goes up, but the y-axis goes down. All right, and of course, if there's no relationship, you're just going to think to yourself, well, these two things have nothing to do with each other, so there wouldn't be any relationship on the scatter plot. So using that information that we've just learned, particularly right here, particularly this, let's talk about the items in question number 1. Question number 1 says, what relationship could be represented by this graph? So the first thing we're going to do is look at the graph, and we're going to notice that there is a downhill to the right line. So this represents a negative relationship. Now, in order to choose the correct choice here, we need to remember that for negative, the x-axis item would be increasing, but the y-axis item would be decreasing, one up and one down. So let's look at these 4 choices and see which one would have one going up and one going down. A says the number of hours driven and the distance from the starting point. So we're always going to assume that the first thing is the x-axis, all right? So we're always going to say to ourselves, okay, if the x-axis item, which is the number of hours driven, increases, I need to know which one of these things in the second thing would decrease. The number of hours driven and the distance from the starting point. So if I drive longer and longer and longer, then the distance from the starting point would be further and further and further away. This would be both things going up, which would be a positive relationship. So this item is not it. B says the number of hours driven and the height of the driver. Well, how tall a person is doesn't have anything to do with how long they drive. That would be a no relationship. So it's not that one. Remember, we're looking for negative. C says the number of hours driven and the number of gallons of gas used. So the longer I drive in my car, the gas that I used is going to increase. In the first hour, I'll use a quarter of a tank. In the second hour, I'll use a half a tank. In the third hour, I'll use 3/4 of a tank. So both of these items would be increasing. Again, that would be a positive relationship. So we're down to D, and we're hoping that the first one goes up and the second one goes down. The number of hours driven and the number of gallons of gas remaining. So the longer you drive, the less gas you have left. Here is our negative relationship. Moving on to number 2. Which statement best represents the relationship between height and weight of children? So if we take a look at our graph, here's height, and you can see by the numbers, the height, the kids are getting taller and taller and taller. Here is weight. So as the dots go up, they're getting heavier and heavier and heavier. So if you have an upward track like this, you're looking for positive. And remember, positive means that both things go up. So as height increases, weight increases. Looks to me like that might be it, but let's read the other ones just to make sure. As height increases, weight decreases. No, that would be a negative relationship. As height increases, weight increases at first and then decreases. No. As height increases, weight starts by decreasing and then increases. No. A is our choice. Looking at the third one, which statement is true about the graph? Well, let's look at the graph first. I don't know what sepal means, but it doesn't really matter. What we're doing is we're looking at the pattern of dots, and you see that they are really random. They're definitely not in a line going up or down. So I'm looking for basically one that says no trend, and that would be D. Guys, whenever you find a multiple choice question that has a word in it that we've never talked about consistent trend, that's definitely not going to be your answer. You don't want to fall in the trap of going, oh my gosh, I've never heard of that before. Did she talk about that in class? Did I miss that in my notes? Maybe that's the answer. Go with your gut. You know you've never heard it before. That's not the answer. Excuse my cough. All right, moving on to the next learning target. I can determine the equation of a line of best fit using a graph or table of points. So for this, you need to know your linear equation. And this is y equals mx plus b form, remembering that m stands for slope, and b is the y-intercept. So if I look at the y-intercept, let me get rid of this. The y-intercept is -2, so I need a graph that would cross at -2. This one, actually, that's not a very good representation. It would be more like, whoops, more like that. This one possibly crosses at -2. This one, I guess it depends on where the line of best fit is drawn. And then this one, like so. So we know for sure, I'm thinking that I can't really tell from the y-intercept. So let me look at the slope instead. The slope is -3. So one thing we should remember is that a negative slope tilts this way and a positive slope tilts this way, which means that this cannot be the answer because this line would go up and to the right. That would be a positive slope. So that's definitely no good. So it's down to the second one or the third one. So we have to actually look at the number of the slope, which is -3/1. Remember that slope is rise over run. So we would go up 3 and over 1, up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1. So it's going to be a steep staircase like this. This one right here is probably the best choice. Is it perfect? No, but the question says most likely. So that's the one we would go with. Looking at the next question, which equation is most likely to match the line of best fit for the graph? So if I say, okay, here's my line of best fit is about like this, I definitely have a negative y-intercept, and it looks like it's around -4, which would put A, not possible, and would put C, not possible, because those both have y-intercepts of +4. So the only other thing to look at is, okay, well, do I have a slope of +2 or do I have a slope of -2? So if I just ask myself, well, remember that if you have a positive slope, you go this way, and if you have a negative slope, you go that way. This one's definitely going to be the +2, so B is going to be our answer. For the next learning target, you're supposed to make predictions using data scatter plots or the equation of a curve of best fit. So for these questions, this one here and the next two on the next page, this is where we need Desmos. So in order to get the equation for the line of best fit, basically I'm trying to figure out, okay, if I drew the line of best fit, what would the equation of that line be? Well, excuse me guys, we are not going to draw it ourselves and guess. What we are going to do instead is we're going to put all of these points into Desmos, and we're going to let Desmos come up with it. So, for example, we have here x value of 2, y value of 20. So 2, 20. This one is 2, 22. This one would be right in between 2 and 4. That would be 3. Between 18 and 20 would be 19. So say 3, 19. All right, et cetera, until we had all of the dots in a table. So I've written all these coordinates down on a spare piece of paper, and I'm going to switch over to Desmos now to remind you how to do this. So what you do when you open up your graphing calculator is hit the plus sign in the upper left corner and hit table. And here we're going to put in our values. Now it's really important that you pay attention to what you're typing. You see what happened there? I just hit the 2-0, but only the 0 showed up. So I got to pay attention and make sure that the numbers that I'm typing in are actually the numbers that are appearing. So I'm going to put all of those coordinates in. 516, 517, boy, there we go. Let's see, 615, 618, 713, 812, 814, 816, 911, and 914. Okay, once you have all your points in, we can see by zooming around on the graph, you can see where they all are. Now what we need to do is we need to know what the line of best fit is. So you go down to the next row in the table, or the next place where you can type. And this is where you have to remember the equation for the line of best fit. And guys, this is not going to be on your formula sheet. So I don't know if it would be in the question or if you would have to memorize it, but it's y1 squiggle mx1 plus b. And as soon as you get done typing that, you should see the line appear and it looks perfect. And down here at the bottom of this number 2 box, you see m equals negative 1.13235. I'm going to write that down on a spare piece of paper real quick. M equals negative 1.13235. I'm not going to round it. It's not too many digits, and I'm going to just leave. I want it as accurate as possible. And you see where it says B equals 22.6324. We're going to use the M and the B to make our equation. So I'm going to go back over to my document. All right, so the equation for the line of best fit is y equals, substitute the m value, negative 1.13235 x, don't forget the x, plus b, 22.6324. Now, when it says predict the y value for an x value of 10, we're just going to take 10 and we're going to substitute it right here. So negative 1.13235 times 10 plus 22.6324. And if you want to, you can go back over to Desmos. You can open up a new line there. 13235 times 10 plus 22.6324, and we see that the answer is 11.3089. So at this point, we can say that it is about 11.3. Usually in your question, it would give you directions for rounding. Okay. The next 2 questions are going to be the same thing. So we have a table here. The table shows the relationship between the absences from school and grades. We're going to find the equation for the line of best fit, and this one does tell us to round our values to the nearest 10th as needed, and then predicts the final grade for a student who has 12 absences. So if you come over here, I have already put all those values into the table, and I've already gotten the M and the B values. And so if it tells us to round to the nearest 10th, M is going to be negative 2.8. B is going to be 88.7. And I think it said 12 absences, right? So we're going to use negative 2.8 times 12 plus 88.7. We would expect a student with 12 absences to have a grade of 55.1. This is really annoying. I don't know why it keeps going back to the same spot. So our equation, would be y equals negative 2.8x plus 88.7. And when we substituted 12, we got 55.1. Okay. Same thing for this one. Now it gets a little tricky with years, but it is perfectly fine to put these numbers in the table. You're just going to find that you have to zoom way out on the graph to be able to see where the dots are, but there they are. And we have our M value is 0.49. I'm going to make it 0.5. Our B value is negative 957.2. And I did not see what the question said. Let me go back to this one. The question wants to know the cost of a stamp in 2020. So our equation is, gosh, I keep doing that without the pen. Y equals 0.5x minus 957.2. So we're going to take 0.5, we're going to substitute 2020, and I don't have the slightest idea what that is, so let's let Desmos do it for us. Excuse me. So 0.5 times 2020 minus 957.2. We expect that in the year 2020 a stamp would be 52.8 cents. Actually, it is not, but that's okay. And let me scroll back down to the bottom again. 50, oh my gosh, come on, pen, 52.8. Actually, not dollars, cents. There we go. All right, and there you go, guys. That is the entire study guide for Unit 1. Hope this all came back to you. If you have any questions, please leave them in a comment down below. Make sure you tell me your name so that I know it's you, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.